Hi, I'm Tim Ross. Business plans are really important. You know, I've made a few, and this is one of mine. Mind your own business, and I'll show you how it works.
Partial funding for this program was provided by
The first step in starting a business plan is really just asking advice. You can go to the internet and get some templates and download all sorts of stuff, but really nothing replaces talking to your family, your friends, your colleagues, and especially professionals. The professionals are there to make it work for you.
Come and talk to us first. I think that's one step that I think that does get missed. If you're just in the middle of formulating that business plan, but you've got an idea of what you want to do, we can probably give you a good idea of, generally speaking, of how the financing, for example, would look.
Yeah, I would certainly look at, creating sections. You would definitely want to look at how much money you have, and I always advocate less money is better because it makes you much more creative, and it forces you to get outside of yourself and create relationships with other businesses, and sometimes creating relationships with your competitors, because as I said, not everybody's your customer, so maybe your customer base is yours, and the other part is your competitors, so there's no reason not to work together. So you look at putting together a plan that says, these are the people I want to work with, this is the kind of marketing I want to do. So if I want to do a TV commercial but I don't have any funds, well, what kind of exciting things can I do? If I have a website, how am I going to maximize that website if that's going to be my one investment? So you do have to have maybe sections, but it doesn't have to look as pretty as somebody else's professionally developed business plan, as long as you're using that. Maybe even check marks would be great.
There's such a wide variety that I've seen, and some people, they're quite extensive. They have worked in a worst case scenario, what they expect, best case scenario. They've got it nicely detailed as to what their experience is particularly in a startup. If you're going to start something new, what their background is and how that matches up with what they're trying to do. I would say usually the biggest thing is it's just not fully developed, their plan. Usually they've left out some things, they have missed maybe some expenses that they weren't thinking, oh yes, that's going to be an expense, but I didn't put it in there. So I think that's the biggest thing, and a lot of people just don't know where to start, because especially if they've never operated a business or have not worked in an industry where they've looked at a statement. So I think it's certainly well worthwhile to, if you're really struggling, to find an accountant perhaps that will help you with a plan. Look on for some online resources. Ultimately at the end of the day, I can't write it for you because there'd be a bit of a conflict of interest there, but we'll help where we can.
A business plan, we do a 5-year business plan always before we do anything. We have a standard operating book, which is that thick now, that we consistently change. And the business plan, it'll change if there's something big. When we did Sears, there was a big change in the business plan. What we were cutting out to make the room, what Sears was expected to do. And again, over a 5-year period is what we try to do.
So when it comes to setting up a business, you need to do a lot of research. And one of the biggest things is that I truly believe in business plans. You need to have those finances together. You need to have a business plan together. And if it doesn't quite work, make those adjustments. Don't let it run so that you can't make those changes. I always say do a reevaluation every 3 months. It's really important.
Well, there are 3 parts to a business plan. I'll use that one. But somebody may say there are 3 reasons why somebody will go into business. They say it's for financial reasons, or because they're good at what they do, or because they're good at marketing. And those are the 3 parts of the business plan: the operation, or the administration side of that, call it the A, and then the financial side. They're the whiz. They think they can see a money opportunity, so they're good at financing. They're good with the money. That's not everybody, by the way. and then, or they're good at marketing. But what you've got is the three parts of the business plan, the F and the A and the M, and you're probably good at one of those. You're either very good at fixing engines or making pizzas or being in a professional area or providing a service, and you're not good at the other two. So you're good at what you do, but you're not good at money or marketing. Or you're great at managing the money, so-so on the others, or you're good at two of them. If you're a whiz, you're probably good at two of those, but not the third, which is why you bring in a bookkeeper. Or if you're good at the money, you'll bring in someone to sharpen the lawnmower blades, or whatever it is that you're not good, whatever the gap is. So from an entrepreneur standpoint, the E part of that FAME rubric is educating yourself to make sure you are better at the thing that you're not good at. So in terms of a pitfall, you're going to, the three parts of running a business, the financial part, the administration or operation part, and the marketing part, you're probably not going to be good at one of those things. So educating yourself and your staff to round out that offering and fill out those components of your business plan is probably one of the best things you can do.
You know what, I started and there was a course that they introduced at Algonquin College. It was the first year of an entrepreneurship program that they were offering there, so it was the very first year of it. So I took several courses there, marketing, and at night. And so because I was the only one that had already started, I was always the class example, and I got all kinds of great feedback and really sort of understood how to put a plan together. And it's not that I wanted to go for financing, because really I wanted the business to grow organically, sort of in more ways than one. But I just wanted to have an idea of how I should expect things to grow.
Well, business has changed a lot in the last 25 years, and it's moved away from, I'll speak in our situation, it's moved away from being a business where you could sort of put the cart before the horse at times and grow into it. And much of our growth in the early years came from, buying trucks and trailers and then go get the work. And we got away with it, and we had some success doing that. Business today is far more sophisticated.
When we're looking at the financing, you have to pretty much develop that yourself. We have we actually offer an online business plan on our website to help people to do it, so it gives them a bit of a structure of how to do one. And when you are working through it, I certainly have helped people. I need to know what the payment is to work this into my business plan, things like that. We can help them with. We can't determine what their projected sales are going to be and that sort of thing. That's up to them. We might even direct them to, it never hurts to go talk to an accountant. It could be money well spent to have somebody, because this is usually quite new for somebody who has never dealt with financial statements or business plans. I think that the other aspect of that would be, as you're putting it together, there are times when you think you've maybe got a finished product. We might say, well, you know what, you need this as well, and so with that type of guidance, I think it does help people.
Your banker may help you, may suggest some changes so that the underwriters will see it in a language that they'll understand, because they're looking for certain keywords. It's true.
Well, interestingly enough, we do have people on staff who have run their own business or who are currently running their own business in conjunction with what they're doing here. So we have experienced folks on staff from a personal perspective on how to write a business plan. We also have folks that have been trained on helping take a look at what's the best business plan to write. But truly what we would do is take a look at what community resources that we can bring in to help wrap around that employer or the new employer who's looking to develop a business, including the Entrepreneurship Center, community development centers. We would bring those folks in to work with them as much as we do on business plan development and other things that they need.
Similarly, we have a business planning element where if you wanted to look, for example, to expand your business, if you wanted to get into exporting and you wanted to do an assessment of whether or not that was an appropriate move for you and what would the obstacles be or the barriers that you needed to overcome. You had to hire professional expertise to do that. We could consider funding again on a 50-50 cost share a business plan project.
But what we said was, we're going to find investors. We're going to find a bank that'll lend us some money to buy the land, and we're going to basically start with what we have in the bank, and we're going to run with it. And they said, oh, And you think it's just going to happen like that? I said, yeah, I do. I do. And how can you be so sure? Well, if I'm not sure, why am I bothering? So that's the other thing. I mean, when you decide that this is the business you want to do, you have to be able to defend it, not to your family, not to your friends, but to yourself. You have to be able to say to yourself, yeah, this is something I really want to do. And the only way you can get to that point is if you're honest with yourself in the very beginning and say, okay, what am I ready to give up? What am I ready, what am I ready to do? What am I ready not to do? And so it really does come down to planning. And write these things down, because if you try and keep it all in your head, it's just not going to work.
Business today is really difficult in terms of the competitiveness of whether it's locally, regionally. In our cases, it's nationally. We're competing with a lot of people who do what we do, and we can't underprice everyone and be a price leader. It just can't happen. So we have to be able to sell our value in terms of what we do, not what we charge to do it. We have to be competitive, so we can't, charge an exorbitant amount of money more than the competition, but we don't have to be below the competition to bring our value to the relationship. So, growth, depending on what market you're in, I think will all have its challenges. But if you're selling something, whether it's a widget or whether it's a service, you better know what your costs are, because if you don't, you'll never know what to charge. And sometimes it's a slow burn going down. But when you run out of money and you run out of equity and you run out of resources, it's too late to recover. So you don't want to get yourself in that situation, because once you're in that situation, it's over. So be disciplined, be absolute, and have something more to sell than just price.
If I would have said 3 years ago we would have been in the same position that we are now, I would have been surprised, because 3 years ago we were riding high. In those past 3 years, this industry has the influence on the economy, the American dollar, just everything, meat prices, the whole thing. It has changed dramatically as to what just the social environment that we've been familiar with in this area. We've had to make those adjustments, and part of it is that we've gone into catering. It's another revenue for us. We've branched out. We've had to.
Yeah. Okay. You have to measure your investment, both in time, in effort, and in money. Protect everything that you've built. Make sure that you speak to a lawyer. Make sure that you cover yourself. Make sure that your assets are in a safe place where you know exactly how much you're risking. So if you have assets of $125,000 and you know you need $100,000 to live on, then you have $25,000 to risk. That's fine. That's the money you're taking to the poker table. That other $100,000, you have to be absolutely ironclad sure it's protected. You have to be able to say, okay, nope, this is off the table. So when you go out looking for loans and you go out looking, that money is never on the table, especially if you're closer to the end of your career. If you're in the middle somewhere, well, yeah, you can play a little fast and loose.
I think the biggest pitfall I see is not allowing enough time to put things in place. Because when it comes to, you can come into a bank and you need to buy a car, and that can all happen very quickly. When you're financing your business, it's not as quick a process. There's a lot of things to be looked at. So I think the biggest pitfall is putting yourself under too much pressure, giving yourself too short of time frames to get things done. So plan it out early, talk to the bank, get an idea of where this could, what the possibilities are, and do that early.
But at the same time, you also have to understand that you're dealing with a professional banker 9 times out of 10. And they know. You see, they probably already know the answers to the questions that they're asking you. And if you come out and say, oh, well, we're going to sell this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And they know you can't. Just because it's not logical, then you see all of a sudden you've become a real risk to the bank because you don't have a firm grip on what it is that you really want to do.
Now, the outcomes that we have to look at, that we assess, they're broad, but 3 specific ones is that there is other funding involved, so that's your 50% contribution. Yeah. Also that there is job impact, so, and you have to be able to substantiate that, and that is a focus of the application assessment process, and that there is economic impact.
I said, oh. She goes, well, don't worry about it, we'll fix it. And we did. Everything was fixed up. So it doesn't matter how much work you do, there's still a chance that you're going to miss something. But goodness, you have to get out there. You have to ask the questions. What am I missing? This is what I've got. You have to work with the government in that particular case, especially when you're licensed or you have permits. You have to ask the questions. What permits do I need to do? This is what I want to do. Again, if you have a good business plan to fall back on, you can go to the government with your business plan and say, okay, this is what I want to do. What are the permits do I need? What permits do I need? What kind of information should I get and when should I get it? Who do I speak to about this? In municipalities, the provincial government, 2, 3, in our case, 2, 3 levels of municipal, provincial government, there's a lot to do. And you just have to do the work. You have to do the research, and you can't be lazy because you will pay for it.
I think the number one issue is just not being prepared. And what motivates that non-preparedness could be arrogance. It could be a misreading of your marketing information and your marketing surveys and studies. I would always say from what I've found, and I've probably done 7 startup companies, I would probably say from what I found, it's like going to a trade show with your business cards. If you think you have enough, double it. If you think you have enough time to do this, double it. You will not get your customers right out of the gate. And if you do, you won the lottery. You did fabulous. But expect time to grow.
The most important thing is to truly understand what you want to do. You have to understand what you want to do. You need to understand where you are, where you want to be, and everything that's involved in getting there. Everything that's involved in getting there. Whether you're 25 years old and deciding to start out on your own and starting your own business, you have to understand what it's going to take to get to that point. You're not going to be going out every night. You're not going to be able to do all that because you're going to have to spend time working on the business. If you've been an employee for all your career and you want to find something to retire to, make sure in that particular case, make sure you measure your risks. Don't put everything that you've built your entire life at risk on a dream.
This is your dreams and this is reality. How do you bridge them together? Well, it's a business plan. It doesn't have to be 40 pounds or 1,000,000 pages. It just has to be a living, breathing document. And it takes some time to figure it all out, but it's really important.
I do believe that, sometimes people view it that way, that this is something I need to do in order to satisfy the bank. Not necessarily the case. It really should be something that you need to do to get your thoughts down on paper and to help guide you through the decisions that you need to make.
Okay, so let's say I write this business plan that has absolutely no substance to it, based on fallacy, based on unrealistic projections, and the banker, based on this information, goes to the underwriters. The underwriters look it over and go, oh, that sounds like a good business plan. And they sign off on it and they lend you the money. And then 6 months down the road, you're bankrupt. Okay, so what's happened here? You've fooled yourself from the very beginning by writing a business plan that has no chance of succeeding. You've destroyed your credit. You may have lost everything you own in a bankruptcy. And all this because your primary goal was to get money, where your primary goal should always be to run a successful business.
the business plan needs to be developed to be sort of the blueprint for success for the client as well and for the business person. It should be something that you refer to on a regular basis, that you sort of map where am I versus the financial goals that I'd established for myself, how am I doing versus how I thought I'd be doing, and then take corrective action. So it should be something that informs your decisions on a regular basis, not just those of that might be deciding upon whether or not to invest in your business.
But since then, we have not only just done the restaurant business, we've done retail, we've done catering, we're fairly heavily into gift certificates, we do takeout now, the accommodations have become a bigger part of it also. So, you know, it's changed fairly sufficient, like overall. And that change is, you have to adapt that. You have to, not in a million years would I've ever guessed that doing the original plan. So that business plan has changed over the years. It's evolved, but that basic one is still there. It's still the basis of everything. And we change it. The finances change. I have a bookkeeper that we reevaluate. I literally do it every month, but overall it's usually done on a yearly basis because that changes that much in this industry. You just, from year to year, it makes a huge difference.
I sort of look at it as a business plan that I would do every year, but would have maybe a 3 to 5 year section that is showing me that what I've done this year is building up to what I want to achieve in 3 years and what I want to achieve in 5 years. And so it doesn't become overwhelming because I've seen people put together business plans and they'll say, I want to make $1 million this year. Well, how overwhelming is that? But if you say how much you want to make every month, and then what do you have to do every month in order to make that? And when you identify the shortfalls, well, you're catching it very quickly because you're not waiting till the end to see how it all turned out. So I think that's what makes it a living document, is it's something that you do want to refer to on an ongoing basis, just as a checklist to keep yourself in check.
A business plan, it isn't something you just put on a shelf. You know, you constantly got to revisit it, you know, blow the dust off of it and see where you want to go again. Because when you do a business plan right, you lay out some foundational principles that you need to practice in your business. So it's good to revisit it from time to time.
Partial funding for this series was provided by and by